Chapter 32 Flesh, Blood, and Bone. Harry felt his feet slam into the ground. His injured leg gave away and he fell forward. His hand let go of the Triwizard Cup at last. He raised his head. Where are we? He said. Cedric shook his head. He got up, pulled Harry to his feet, and they looked around. They had left the Hogwarts ground completely. They had obviously travelled miles, perhaps hundreds of miles, for even the mountains around the castle were gone. They were standing instead in the dark and overgrown graveyard. The black outline of the small church was visible beyond a large yew tree to their right. A hill rose above them. To their left, Harry could just make out the outline of a fine old house on the hillside. Cedric looked down at Triwizard Cup and then, Harry, did anyone tell you the cup has portkey? He asked. No, said Harry. He was looking around the graveyard. It was completely silent and silentlier. Is this supposed to be a part of the task? I don't know, said Cedric. He sounded slightly nervous. What out do you reckon? Yes, said Harry, glad that Cedric had made the suggestion rather than him. They pulled out their wand. Harry kept looking around him. He had yet again the strange feeling that they were being watched. Someone's coming, he said suddenly, squinting tensely through the darkness. They watched the figure drawing nearer, walking steadily toward them between the grave. Harry couldn't make out a face, but from the way it was walking and holding its arms, it could tell that it was carrying something. Whoever it was, he was short and wearing a hooded cloak pulled up over his head and obscured his face. And several paces nearer, the gap between them closing all the time. Harry saw that the thing in the person's arm looked like a baby. Or was it merely a bundle of ropes? Harry lowered his wand slightly and glanced sideways at Cedric. Cedric shot him a puzzled look. They both turned back to watch the approaching figure. It stopped beside a towering marble handstone only 6 feet from them. From a second, Harry and Cedric and the short figure simply looked at one another, and then without warning, Harry's scar exploded with pain. It was agony such as he had never felt in all his life. His wand slipped from his finger and he pulled his hand over his face. His knees buckled. He was on the ground and he could see nothing at all. His head was about to split open. From far away above the head, he heard a high, cold voice say, "Kill the spare." A swishing noise and a second's voice, with a screech the word to the night, Avada Kedavra. Blast of green light blazed through Harry's eyelid and he heard something heavy fall to the ground beside him. The pain in his scar reached such a pitch that he reeled. And then he dismissed, terrified of what he was about to see. He opened his sitting eyes. Cedric was lying spread-eagled on the ground beside him. He was dead. For a second that contained an eternity, Harry stared into Cedric's face, at his open grey eyes, blank and expressionless as the window of the deserted house, at his half-open mouth, which looked slightly surprised, and then before Harry's mind had accepted that what he was seeing, before he could feel anything, numb disbelief. He felt himself being pulled to his feet. The short man in the cloak had put down his bundle in the wand and was dragging Harry toward the marble headstone. Harry saw the name upon the flickering in the one light before he was forced around, slammed against it. Tom Riddle. The cloaked man was now conjured tight cord around Harry, tying him from neck to ankle to the headstone. Harry could hear shallow, fast breathing from the depth of the hood. He struggled, and the man hit him with a hand that had a finger missing. And Harry realized who was under the hood. It was Wormtail. You, he gasped. Wormtail, who had finished conjuring the ropes, did not reply. He was bushy, checking the tightness of the cords, his fingers trembling uncontrollably, fumbling over the knots, once sure that Harry was bound too tightly to the headstone that he couldn't move an inch. Bumpel drew a length of some black material from the inside of his cloak and shoved it roughly into his mouth. Then, without a word, he returned from Harry and hurried away. Harry couldn't make a sound, nor could he see where Wormtail had gone. He couldn't turn his head to see beyond the handstone. He could see only what was right in front of him. Cedric's body was lying some 20 feet away, some away beyond him. Glinting in the straight light lay the Charizard pup. Harry's wand was on the ground at Cedric's feet. The bundle of robes that Harry had thought was a baby was close by at the foot of the grave. Seemed to be string fretfully. Harry watched it and his scars scared with pain again. And he suddenly knew that he didn't want to see what was in those robes. He didn't want that bundle open. He could hear noise at his feet. He looked down and saw a gigantic snake slithering through the glass. Circling the handstone when he was tired, Wormtail fast busy breathing was growing louder again. It sounded as though he was forcing something heavy across the ground. Then he came back within Harry's range of vision, and Harry saw him pushing a stone cauldron to the feet of the grave. It was full of what seemed to be water. Harry could hear it sloping around, and it was larger than any cauldron Harry had ever used, a great stone belly large enough for the full-grown man to sit in. The thing inside the bundle of robes on the ground was stinging more persistently, as though it was trying to free itself. Now Wormtail was busying himself at the bottom of the cauldron with a wand. Suddenly there were cracking frame beneath it. The large snake slithered away into the darkness. The liquid in the cauldron seemed to heat heavy fast. The surface began not only to bubble, but to send out fiery sparks, as though it were on fire. Steam was thickening, blurred the outline of Wormtail tending the fire. The movements beneath the ropes became more agitated, and Harry heard the high, cold voice again. Hurry! The whole surface of the water was alight with sparks now. It might have been encrusted with diamonds. It is ready, master. Now, said the cold voice. Wormtail pulled open the ropes on the ground, revealing what was inside them. And Harry let out a yell and was strangled in the wand of material blocking his mouth. It was though Wormtail had flipping over a stone and revealed something ugly, slimy, and kind. It was 100 times worse. The thing Wormtail had been carrying had the shape of a crouched woman child. Expect that Harry had never seen anything less like a child. It was hairless and scaly looking, a dark raw reddish black. Its arm and leg were thin and feeble, and its face, no child alive ever had a face like that. Fat and snake-like. With glimmering red eyes, the thing seemed almost helpless. It raised its thin arms, put them around Wormtail's neck, and Wormtail lifted it. As he did so, his foot fell back, and Harry saw the look of revulsion on Wormtail's weak, pale face in the firelight as he carried the creature to the rim of the cauldron. For one moment, Harry saw the evil, flat face illuminating in the spark dancing on the surface of the potion, and then Wormtail lowered the creature into the cauldron. There was a hiss and it vanished below the surface. Harry heard its fair body hit the bottom with a soft thud. Let it down, Harry thought, his scar burning almost past endured. Please let it down. Wormtail was speaking, his voice shook. He seemed frightening beyond his wits. He raised his wand, close his eyes and spoke to the night. Born of the Father, unknowingly given, you will renew your son. The surface of the grave at Harry's feet cracked. Horrified, Harry watched as a fine trickle of dust rose into the air at Wormtail's command and fell softly into the cauldron. The diamond surface of the water broke and hissed. It sent sparks in all directions and turned a vivid, poisonous-looking blue. And now Wormtail was whimpering. He pulled a long, thin, shining silver dagger from inside his cloak. His voice broke into petrified sob. Flesh of the servant, willing you will revive your master. He stretched his right hand out in front of him, the hand with his missing finger. He gripped the dagger very tightly in his left hand and swung it upward. Harry realized that Wormtail was about to do a second before it happened. He closed his eyes as tightly as he could, but he could not block the scream that pierced the night, that went through Harry as through he had been stabbed with a dagger too. He heard something fall to the ground, heard Wormtail, aguished, panting, then a sickening splash as something was dropped into the cauldron. Harry couldn't stand to look, but the potion had turned a burning red. The light of it shone through Harry's closed eyes. Wormtail was gasping and moaning with agony. Not until Harry felt Wormtail's august breath on his face did he realize that Wormtail was right in front of him. The blood of the enemy, forcibly taken, you will recruit your foe. Harry could do nothing to prevent it. He was tied too tightly, squinting down, struggling hopelessly at the ropes binding him. He saw shining silver dagger shaking in Wormtail's remaining hand. He felt its point penetrate the crook of his right arm and blood sink down the sleeve of his torn robes. Wormtail, still panting with pain, fumbled in his pocket for a glass vial and held it to Harry's cut so that a dribble of blood fell into it. He staggered back to the cauldron with Harry's blood. He poured it inside. The liquid would turn instantly a blinding white wormtail. His job done, dropped to his knees beside the cauldron, then lumped sideways and lay on the ground, cradling and bleeding stump of his arm, gasping and sobbing. The cauldron was simmering, attending the diamond spark in all directions, so blindly bright that it turned all else to velvety blackness. Nothing happened. Let it have drowned, Harry thought, let it have gone wrong. And then suddenly the spark emanating from the cauldron were extinguishing. A surge of wild scream bellowed, thinking from the cauldron instead, obliterating everything in front of Harry, so that he couldn't see Wormtail on Cedric or anything but vapor hanging in the air. It's gone wrong, he thought. It's drowned. Please, please let it be dead. But then, through the mist in front of him, he saw with an icy surge of terror the dark outline of a man, tall and skeletally thin, rising slowly from behind the cauldron. Rob me, said the high, cold voice from behind the screen, and Wormtail, sobbing and moaning, still craning his mutilated arm, scrambled to pick up the black robe from the ground, got to his feet, reached up and pulled them one-handed over his master's head. The thin man stepped out of the cauldron, staring at Harry, and Harry stared back into the face that has haunted his nightmares for 3 years. Whiter than a skull, with wide, livid scarlet eyes and a nose that was flat as a snake's with slight of for nostrils, Lord Voldemort had rise again. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for next chapter. Till then, see ya. Bye bye.